Heather, I'm Ash Winters and I'm going to read you some poetry. Choose this. No one would choose this. She did though. She did, and she did, and she did. But it is confusing, like there's more than one of her in there, fighting for the steering wheel, perpetual crash. She doesn't want this, but she also doesn't want that. How long does pain hurt? It always hurts. Every moment that it is pain. It never gets to be anything else. There gets to be other things, but pain always hurts. And who wants that? I want cuts that don't bleed, bruises that don't smart when I move. I don't want to catch my own breath as my body tells me that parts of it are broken. I want my mind just the same, which is good because my mind is the same. No imaginary line between me and the space I exist in. One. And they don't want to hurt. A superpower sold in tall cans and little bottles, in boxes and cases. A superpower she needs to not be in pain. Sold everywhere, sold cheap, sold expensive. She pays and she pays and she pays. Because it doesn't feel like a choice. She keeps the pain away because she knows it will never leave. And she is right. No one would choose this. But if you were her, you might choose it every single day. Upstairs. The couple that was 3 a.m. screaming at each other this morning is watching Jeopardy, together shouting wrong answers at the TV, like people do. I am below them wondering if right before the end of the world is a good time to get sober. I guess it's better than right after, during. We are always in the middle of something, looking for its edges, a beginning and another beginning, looking for a connection, making one up if it isn't there, wondering for a second if it is you or Alex Trebek who is wrong. The capital of Portugal is still my bedroom. The average lifespan of Lemur is half as long as you had hoped, and 10 times what I expected. The neighbor's guess, though, was close. I will give them that, though they will probably never give it back. Victorious. Sullen's quiet monopoly over Greektown fades, and I am piping hot ready for summer. I have waited for this all of my years, days, and hours. This, the second most important part. But I am also conceited, right down in my bedrock, for no real reason. Other than, if you have to lie about how you feel about yourself, why wouldn't you say, great? If you had a blank face, why wouldn't you draw a smile, and draw a smile, and draw a smile? Till it is spring, and you are not sure anymore if it is fake. Lunch. Fizzy water and an apple on top of a pile of sawdust. Like I am having the best picnic that can be had. Work myself right down into the ground, right out into the open. No one will ever make enough money. But I hope to build this house, and I have started naming my slivers like hurricanes. I am on Sasha, a long way from Annalee, but I am back to not that far from home, so the weather sucks. Whether I am upset about it or not, the whole day will tip over when it rains. We will sail boats in the puddles. We will finish early or we will never be done. This afternoon, work myself like whipped cream, thickening until I am stiff and delicious. This poem is untitled. We will weather the storm because the weather must. A measure of my faith is faith in measures then, is the everyday of it, the morning, midday, before bed, the always present. A shadow cast is really just the sun around it, is the whole day and all of the light that lands on it. This one is also untitled. I have a night I want to give you, but it doesn't happen till years from now, when we are both dead, when humans are dead, not long, but gone. Then I tell you, and you get the joke. Holy crap, is it good to hear you laugh. And this next poem is from a collection I wrote while I was in rehab. It's called Run Riot, and it comes out with Caitlin Press in 2021. This is a poem from it. It's called Day 68. Living with the kind of folks who try extra hard to remember December birthdays, who make sure those guys get cards. In the same group, one signs with a hateful remark, dyke, queer, words that still make me a little bit afraid for my life. His idea of a joke. Groups are just individuals, things in common, things different. That guy got kicked out. I really hope he doesn't use. If he does, I hope he doesn't die. Also, that his friends that I live with don't hate me. They would unwittingly demonstrate why it is never a joke to me.
Hi, my name is Faylita Hicks, and I am the author of Hoodwitch, which is a collection of poetry published by Acre Books in October 2019. Take a look here. And I am going to read you a few poems today. I want to say thank you to Read Pride for inviting me to do this. And I want to take a moment to let you know that you are important. And I hope that you are taking care of yourself during this incredibly tough time. Right, now let's do some poems. The first poem I'm going to read to you is Photo of a Girl, 1988, Cyborg. Somewhere, Carolina. Standing next to Mama, I mimic the exposure of internal systems, revealing an elegant smile, creased white in the brunt of my dark face, blue grease slipping down the side of my neck. My sister coils around her leg, a frame bent by mistake, and together we are, tent against the grill of the bleeding velvet hood of a trifling, sun-licked Corvette. Mama poses with her hips jut out, with the flesh-eating ammo gossiping beneath the floral print about the irony of carrying a loaded whistle. Hustled down between her copper rings, and Mama slash Queen is hyped next to the hissing machine she will later use to drive us over to Jesus and back to Cali and down to Texas and to drive my daddy's Spectre off a murky dirt road and over to the other unmarried piston-husked men and back to my hologram of a daddy with his lead-filled heart/tongue. And I know what I am and will always be. Something that can and will survive a whole century of hunt. So that's one of my favorite poems in the book. Phone is going off here. The primary reason why it's one of my favorites is because I was trying to find different ways to have a conversation about intergenerational trauma, of course, and how we are. I consider myself non-binary, and so I was trying to find. I was like, what are the other parts of myself that are this and that? I was just trying to look for the intersectional parts of my experience, and of course, one of those is having to do with how young Black people in particular prepare for adulthood, and what that translated to me was. I have to be part machine. I have to be ready. I have to, take some of the emotion out and put some of the machine in order to be prepared to be an adult. And so that's what that poem was trying to address. Next poem we're going to read is a sex poem. Woo, for sex poems. All right. Actually, no, I'm going to read this poem and then I'm going to read a sex poem. Photo of X, 1997, Something Not Right, Fort Hood, Texas. I had been wondering if I was a girl or a boy or just broken, reaching down into myself with a marker, Fix yourself. Mama found me nagging a dictionary, and she came, a yawning beluga whale, self-launched into the air. Her night dress, a white flame pushed up against the flaps of her breast. Mama came for me. Her lopsided curls, garden snakes, unraveling as she flew from my door to myself in the puddle I made with my questions on the floor. She screeched, and a leather face, like a strip of land, kissed my neck, assuaged my back, bitter, tight, nicked the peach behind my knee. My skin hushed itself into a hum of red, and it was the first time I considered bleeding beautiful. I said, fix yourself. But she had to know there was no fixing myself now. So, this poem is about being caught masturbating in my bedroom. And I came from a, fairly strict Christian background. And so, like, masturbation, pass out, wake up to a ass whipping, essentially is what happened. And that's what had happened. But also the beginning of understanding fetish, um, understanding it's just understanding parts of your sexuality. Like if I could go back and try to pinpoint a moment when I knew that there were certain things that I would like um in my erotic practice, this is one of those core moments I can come back to, right? Where I was like, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And that's when things start to change for you. I'm always trying to investigate, like, what's the root moment and what's the root cause. And it's a very complex conversation to have, right? I know people are like, oh, but your mom was beating you. And I was like, yeah, I totally get it. But also, like, how very often when people start exploring their sexuality, they start exploring the trauma um, of a thing and the bastardization of that, and so much shame is attached to sexuality. And I don't have shame. I try not to have shame about my sexuality, and this is one of the first times I can actively remember going, like, I didn't feel bad about what I did. And I mean, even though you gave me a whipping about it, I still didn't feel bad. Like there was no feeling bad about that. That was the first time in my life I didn't feel shame about having explored myself in that way. So that's it. Let's see, we're good. We're doing good on time. All right, I'm gonna read Fish with Yamaya. Photo of X 2004, Fish with Yamaya. San Marcos, Texas. She lays me on the coffee table, like a bag of oranges, fresh from the farmer's market, opens me without bothering to wash me off or peel the labels. She digs her fingers into my hair and pushes until I pull apart beneath her, sighing as I cry on her lap quietly, as much as is required. How she kneads me between her lips, how easily against her tongue I round and fracture a slight exhaust of woman. Naturally, there is a ringing in her cavity, not exactly citrus, but what is left of me sinks into her damp, rough swallow, and I am convinced to stay. I can watch the kitchen burn from here. I can listen to the skillet spit, hiss, and holler from the pier for kosher salt, cilantro, and lemon. I can consider the weight of her peppered hands as they swell against the heated wood of my back, conjure cayenne and butter and cumin in my pot. It is easy now to unravel under the return of her mouth to my burning neck, roll my eyes back to the kitchen on fire, and listen to my body take her. An open space of fresh salt water. So, so people ask me very often, like, are these poems true? Are there characters? They're definitely characters. But the characters are based on real people and based on real events. And so, like, obviously my kitchen wasn't actually on fire, but I was definitely on the coffee table, right? I was definitely cooking fish. So like there are poems in here that seem really super, I guess, kind of incredulous, but they're always based in fact and true things. Like the very first poem I talk about, my parents driving and driving my daddy Spectre off a dirt road. And yeah, there's actually my parents tried to drive each other off the road. That's a real thing that really happened. Um, and so like, that's when writing poems, at least for me, the goal is to how would I tell my story? And this is part of me telling my story is, these are real characters, these are real people to me. Um, but there's also a spiritual connection to that work. And so the last thing I'm probably going to read for you guys, I'm going to go over time. Please don't get mad at me. I'm going to go over time. The last one I'm going to read for you today is going to be da 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 da. I'm going to read a kind of complex poem. You know what? No, I'm gonna read this one. It's not as super complex, but it's also one of the earliest poems in the book. And when I say earliest, I wrote this poem probably a good 9 years ago. So, Concrete Queens. We grazed like deer on the cold corner of Fifth and Trinity, posted up with our contoured cheeks and our matte lips and our yes girl Remy waves on swim with our stacked bodies, stacks on stacks, our swollen chest, our slim waist, our juicy hips on sleigh, and no one knew the better. We huddled together and prayed to a God who hummed blue and green for anything good. A God who sings and sings forever in our ears and never sleeps and knows all things in line. We stood on the corner, whistled when the light clicked green, then red, then green, without us ever moving, us with the giraffe necks and the ashy ankles, rooted in the filthy concrete, leaning every now and then into traffic. We bit through the rust and paint of the stop sign, chewed through the hours of our youth, glared into the smoking sun. Some of us wondering about what we didn't know about. It was why we stood out in the middle of the street, waiting for the screech and halt, the sudden crush of a city college like a fistful of dollars to ride up on our broad backs and clipped hips. We just wanted to know. We were all knowing, yet still without a thought that mattered enough to save ourselves from the clap clap of gas gone pedestrian. Posted up on the corner of Fifth and Trinity without a confession or anything holy to keep us innocent. We got bored. Shit. We hit the lobbies, hit up the other corners previously occupied by our mothers, but now by our fine asses. Shit. We got to posting up all pictures in the wanted section with our gummy tummies and thighs all primed and ready. How are they going to know what we wanted if we didn't tell them? How were we supposed to catch our break if we didn't bend? We good for constellations like that. Pull from ourselves to shine and pivot for prestige. Make for ourselves a way through the poorly lit theaters of the world. I mean, just last night, World Star came to film us. They heard we would do anything, wanted to know which one of us would twerk for a scholarship. The girls. You don't gotta tell me twice. We were all creative entrepreneurs, except for Zaire. Zaire had to leave, had to go pick up her son, said she'd be back later. And this other girl, whose name I can't remember, called the daughter over, and they did this whole routine like they just knew. The lady, they had their own theme song and everything. They got a whole extra stack to do the swallow. Mama on one end, daughter on the other. They gobbled and gobbled till their lips touched, and everyone laughed and hollered. It was fun. But I knew I had to go. I couldn't stay. I grabbed my books and told them I already got mine. This was just pocket money, girl, bye. And the rest lined up against the wall and knocked their backs. I was in a hurry, but I think we all know what happened after that. So, this book is called Hood Witch, and there is a poem called Hood Witch in this book. But that poem in particular is kind of talking about like the experience of coming from a low income background. I was raised in Section 8 housing, like what it means to be considered an at risk Black young femme teen. And the expectation is that, like, you're going to be a prostitute, or, you're going to, we know very young that our bodies are going to be used against us. And, Zaire in particular is one of the people I mentioned in the poem. Zaire has to leave to go home to her son, and World Star is asking us to twerk for a scholarship. There was an actual situation where a rapper was like, "I'm gonna give a 10,000 scholarship to the person who twerks the best," and it turned out that the person he gave the scholarship to was the one person who submitted a video where they did not twerk at all. It was just a Black woman talking about how she wanted to take care of her son and how she was going to school and she's doing this work, and she won the scholarship. And there's something powerful about being able to acknowledge that we have one expectation for Black young femmes, but Black young femmes will change that expectation every single time. If you think you know what you're about to get, no, you're about to get something completely different. And that's just how we roll. It's also kind of showing that you don't ever underestimate a sex worker, a Black young femme sex worker. Just do not underestimate them. Um, they have thoughts and they have dreams and they have goals. And just because they go about getting it in a different way does not mean it needs to be undervalued. Um, and that's really super important. I have nothing but the utmost respect for sex workers. Um, I have done a form of sex work, though not to the same extent as others. And we get here how we get here, and show love and respect, because you don't know what it takes to get through some of these things. So it's my 2 cents. Definitely over time. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just going to leave you guys with this last little bit. You can check out the rest of the book. You can order a copy from me or online. I do know that ebook version is available now on Amazon. I'm looking for other alternatives for ebooks. Gotta stay conscious if we can. But you can find also the album. There's a spoken word album called Onyx. It's on bandcamp.com, and Onyx is full of several of the poems from the book Over Music. It's a spoken word album that I created for this book in particular. And you can hear the full Hood Witch poem on there. So hashtag hallelujah to the hood witches, to the shellac clap back and neck roll snaps, the sisters who snatch tracks and dodge ditches. Hashtag blessed be to they two small kitchens. Blessed be they Dollar Tree gumbo. Blessed be they cooks and hot Cheetos. May they God smile down and rain money on some of us bitches. Hashtag I'm different. Check out the rest of that stuff at FaylitaHicks.com. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Subject to change. Where water slurs around the edge of the delta's mouth, and celestial north is not someplace else but a continuation of the river. Calf, thigh, spooning the shoreline like a boulder has the softest skin in the world. You will question yourself. Think back to a time when everything we touched could turn us into a palace. Like Midas, only it was you who became the glistening walls for a world of subjects to meander, maybe admire, maybe lose themselves in the ambrosial architecture of your body. A time when metamorphosis was your first response. To a warm wrist, a curious glance, the earliest hint of human suffering. And how somewhere down the gold-colored line that bounds uninhibited from this mystical garden to that dark creature lurking in the corner and back to you. A stunning light show. Mythology lost its meaning. Admiration became demeaning. A collection of mason jars filled with the Missouri means, I don't want to lose you, but still I can't trust you to stay. Inside me, where a body of water and sky is disjointed, you are a boulder I can't encompass. If we believed in myths, and I were a palace, you'd walk through me. Maybe burn your place in the celestial array of invaders and leavers. And I'd go to the river, a streak of suffering light, and empty the jars at the knees of an unbroken world. Thrownness. The night sky, a voluptuous black swan taking a bullet to the breast. Bloody blossoms blooming all at once upon a time-lapse photograph. See with your eyes, not with your hands. Evokes the fondest of the fond. My brother, my God complex, examining the pavement for a smooth patch. Shooter for blemishes. I walk through the valley of your shadow. A slim chance weighed down with just enough marbles to drown me, and just pretty enough to impress the other Pisces at the show and tell display of adolescence, whence we carry timidly, our half-formed senses of self. We lose touch for different reasons, from diametrically opposed coasts. For me, every hangover's aurora borealis is charged with telepathic electrodes, transmitting felt warnings at speeds I hesitate to translate. For you, I appear dying in too many dreams. Over too many rivers I waver, never casting that first stone. The agate moon hanging dull and low among the fireworks, then retreating into some remote corner of the lake, far more well-rounded than I'll ever be. 1,000 rock stars smashing their guitars on a dark stage, sparks cascading down upon a sea of fans, a surf wave, me taking it all serious and in. Temporary centerpiece, bomb threat apocalypse theory head, beast of water, cusping Aquarius, she who hates because she knows not what she is. Amphibian. Second born, second sex addict par excellence, sister of the boy who cried, keeper of the cat eyes I've been, called a lot of things in my life. Étant donné. In a deep closet, locked from within and lit by a single gas lamp, I am building a bed of twigs and a landscape with a waterfall out of the materials you've been leaving on my doorstep for the last 2 decades. A lump of pigskin, a bundle of sticks, a bolt of velvet. My wartime rations, you called them. For the last 2 decades, you've been leaving me, little by little, to my own devices. A withered bouquet, a shrinking wardrobe, a fistful of word sand. Piecemeal, I rescind my commitments to the outside world. My bastard boxcar children roam the streets of 100 different cities, shore up in bottles on 100 distant coasts, in 100 strangers' poems. In deep shame, in the deep shade of a saguaro, I am daydreaming of hydroplaning, of a threshold, of a homewrecker's body. A black box cracks open in the desert sun, and from it spills a naked woman you don't recognize, even though you've met her hundreds of times, her pale skin covered with petals from the flowers you brought me, the pine needles you picked with your bare hands. I fall to your feet and offer up my best explanation, my fattest lamb. Visual fatalism. Late summer, kite weather, muscles remembering the day you took my hand in the wheat field, nautilus of fingers to which the shrinking diamond was tethered, unraveling open. Once, you shared my awe of the transcendent, of what goes beyond flesh and blood, overflows silo and water tower, makes fully grown men fall apart. Our father learned from his father, who learned from his father how to corset a season, how to wrangle golden waves of grain in barbed wire, how to pray for rain and discipline us wild oats. Me and my unnatural questions, you, his only begotten son. The last time we spoke, you were letting me know I'd done enough. Said you'd found him in the prairie during a thunderstorm, lying face down on a hay bale. His limp arms stretched out around it, territorial almost. You gathered his heavy body, was a dead metaphor, said, please don't shoot the messenger, said, this family is that bale of hay, and you are the lightning. A crack in the truth window exposes a wall's sod interior to moisture, to empty nest syndrome. Late summer, kite weather, still no olive branch. Whatever brother I had is gone, has left me for harvest. Untethered in a wheat field, I let go of kite string after kite string, dissolve into vertigo, into golden waves of grief. Species dysphoria. Sometimes, once the lights in the hall have gone out and all is sterile, save for the half-frozen hummingbird in my rib cage and the police cars, carving solemn couplets into clean white streets, I steal a glimpse of my raccoon face, then my whole gross body in your eyes, the only mirrors I'm allowed near these days. It happened suddenly, the way most wanted fugitives are caught, how a cot or bed is overcome with something akin to dread and begins trembling when a train's whistle cuts through the dark cocoon of drug-induced sleep. There's no telling if I'm shrinking or backing away or standing still as the walls grow up around me, as words are now more dangerous than numbers are, more dangerous than sharp objects used to be. It's not enough, I say they still need to grow faster to border on cancerous. For I am a shrewd lab rat, am sex gone wrong, gone totemic, am mercurial, memory-ish. In this single life, I've managed to prey and be preyed on, femly and force-fed, butch and broke and fixed. We have been over this. No part of me must go unharnessed, or if it does, I must trust you, would never let that part of me up and run rampant. I must trust your solid sternness, the way a younger sister trusts her elders to dress her down when she doubts or daydreams about silk undergarments or worse, men's clothing. I can't pass through solids, but I'm pretty, certain that if there are things that can, I evolved from those things, or from the things that broke down into them. Radioactive materials, say, or the queer little prince the royal family had buried at sea. I need to believe this arrangement is strictly necessary, that however many she cells I claw through, I'll emerge in a warm room wherein you are patiently waiting for worse and in sickness. The moats around my reflection will have never looked so deep, so much like my mother's, as you count out the pills that help me pass the night more easily. Leave me be, I'll say, but we'll both know that I can't mean that, and so you'll stay, and so I'll stay.